Okay. Happy Monday, everybody. My name is Scott Williamson. I'm the VP of Product Management, and welcome to the product group conversation for October 14th. Sean McGivern had the first question. You want to voice over?
Yeah, thanks, Scott. I see you've already answered them in the doc, but I think it's good to talk about these as well. Actually, I've got the first three because apparently I had a bunch of questions. So on the slide 9, there was some interesting sort of internal survey metrics where one thing that was lagging a bit before was the question or the statement, I know what I need to do to succeed in this organization, was lagging compared to the other questions. And this improved quite a lot last time. And it's still lagging a little bit. So I just wanted to, if you could talk about how that improved so much and how it's going to keep improving.
Yeah, I think the backdrop here is I joined right around the time they answered that first question. You know, new leader, in many cases, new expectations and new introductions to the system. So I fully understand why people felt that way. What I tried to do to drive clarity is I created a career development framework, which is also linked on slide 8, which hopefully helps drive a simple explanation of what's expected at each level. And then also in the intervening time between the first measurement and the second one, people had started to get experience with some of the new aspects of the system, like problem validation. Most of the PMs at this point have gone through one or in the middle of one. And so doing these things at least once starts to build confidence that one understands how to execute the system and how to succeed. And then you asked how would we drive it higher still. We're going to start doing career development framework check-ins, probably a couple times a quarter, just to elevate out of the day-to-day. You know, many one-on-ones can be very much about what's happening day to day. We want to check in on people's, make sure people are connected to sort of the higher level expectations for the role, higher level skills, to make sure that as they're chipping away on the day to day, they also are doing things with mind towards building the skills that they need to succeed in the system. So I think that'll help. Also, we're going to do some training internally and externally to make sure that people feel like they have the skills they need to succeed. For example, 14 or 15 of the PMs are doing a customer interviewing course that I think will drive super useful skills in a really important area.
Cool, thank you for that. And then my second question was about, or my third, depending on how you count, was about the career development framework, and this is just a minor thing. So we've got a similar framework in engineering, and the way it works is you sort of read left to right. So like, you know, you have a column for intermediate, a column for senior, a column for staff, and then you sort of like, as you read left to right, you see what you need to do. The product one, you read bottom to top to read that. Like, so it's got like, you know, the lower levels, sort of regular PM at the bottom, then senior PM, then principal PM or group manager. I was just wondering if that was deliberate, but I think Kenny said that you might rotate that. So,
well, actually, it is deliberate. I wanted people to be able to read left to right about their level. So I guess it depends on
okay, yeah, I see.
How you're orienting it, right? If I'm a PM, I just read left to right about everything that I need to keep in my head. So maybe different folks think differently, but I mostly want it to be about getting oriented around left to right, all in, what's expected at one level. So
I think our handbook styles make wide tables quite challenging to read as well, which isn't necessarily a problem with the table directly, but yeah.
That may be another reason to go with you. So I'll work with Kenny on that. Thank you.
Cool, thanks.
All right, Patrick's next.
Hey, so I know the customer advisory board starts tomorrow. I know broadly we're just there to learn from our customers, and there are a bunch of activities around that. But I'm curious, is there something in particular that you are specifically really interested in learning, or if there's some area that you're particularly watching?
This is my first one, so more than anything, I'm looking forward to making personal connections with some of our key customers and starting to form my own point of view about what makes these folks tick and what they care about. Yeah, for me, I'm just excited to soak in that and hear directly from customers with our particular async way of working. Time like this is super valuable. So for me, it's like getting a baseline for what our customers need. We also, have a number. There's also a PM for a day exercise in there where we're going to propose 15 things that we might invest in, and we're going to ask them to spend their money where they would if they were a PM. I'm looking forward to the output of that too, because we need to, that's just another great input to know where we should invest.
Cool, thanks.
Yep. Hey, Jean?
Scott, so slide 2 indicates here the rapid growth you guys have experienced in product and engineering and a similar growth. What would you what would be your recommendation for engineering and specifically the managers combining with the product manager in ensuring that we new starters are aligned with the vision of the stage they work on, as well as to build that why for the in terms of them understanding why they're doing the work that's assigned to them?
Yeah, great question. There is so slide 6 has links to 3 vision pages for the sections. So Dev, CI/CD, and Ops have written those. I would expect them to come for enablement, plus secure, defend, and growth. Those are excellent docs that I think explain some of the why. They talk about the market opportunity. They talk about our challenges. They talk about the themes we want to hit over the next year to really drive our position. Just this morning, I requested that the directors of those areas set up a synchronous live discussion around these pages with development, with all of R&D, so that, and as well as product marketing, so that we can all just have a conversation about it. We can sort of have a moment where people read this thing and review it together. So I would recommend reading that and participating and contributing to that conversation. Also, as part of the problem validation phase, we are creating 1-page docs. They're called opportunity canvases, and it lays out, hopefully in a simple, easy to consume way, who's the target user, what problem do they have, how are they working around this today, what's the opportunity in terms of what do we think the reach for this is, what's the impact going to be, what's the expected level of effort, what do we think the solution might look like, and how might we take this to market. This asks the PM to think about a lot of these interrelated things up front, and I think it does a really excellent job of teeing up what that opportunity is. We just had a couple reviews of these last week, so these are starting to come off the production line after the team has done some problem validation research. And Jeremy did one on fine-grained access permissions, and Sarah did one on error tracking. Both really framed up those opportunities. Look for lots more of these coming for some of the major things we do. We won't be doing this for everything, but things that might move a category forward, or things that might be establishing ourselves with some breadth in a new area, or things that might be very thematic and important. We'll have one of these, so I would definitely consume those as well.
Thank you.
Yep, you bet.
Scott, can I add one thing to that statement about the vision pages? I'm also, and anyone in the ops stage knows I harp on this all the time, that those aren't just one directional. Everyone in the whole stage and section and company can and should contribute to those vision documents. I think we as a company generally have this presumption that the only person who can propose an MR to those pages is product, and that's not the case. Individual team members should feel free to contribute, not just in terms of consuming, but also in terms of making adjustments to them.
Thank you, Kenny. Fabian, you're next.
Yeah, I had one question. So I don't know if you've seen the announcement from the engineering department about a sort of shift in prioritizing availability over velocity. And I think at GitLab, iteration and speed of delivery are really important. So I was just wondering what your view is, how that is going to impact the product department, and how this is, will there be a change, or just to hear your view on it.
I view this as guidance for the team on how to think about priority. And it's a reminder that we should not be doing things in the name of velocity that negatively impact availability. I think if velocity is the only thing you're thinking about, sometimes it can lead to cutting corners that might damage availability. That's not the trade we want people making. We want them to be conscious of their decisions against availability, and we want to make sure those are prioritized highly. That's the gist. It's don't make mistakes just to move fast. We want to, when we're doing an MVC, yes, we want the team to be productive. We want them to be quick. We can't do that at the expense of availability. Also, we built up some debt in the area. For example, there's a lot of areas where we don't have limits set. And if we do set limits, we'll have a much higher likelihood of achieving availability. So part of this is also about making sure we pay down debt where we might have moved really fast before and not considered availability enough. So I think those are the two areas where it's going to come up. Like there may be some short-term pressure to fix some things where we might have moved a bit fast. And then going forward, it's for the things we do, let's make sure we consider availability. Does that help, Fabian?
It does. Thank you for explaining it.
You bet. John May.
Hey, Scott. Thanks for all you guys do, everyone does, not does. Thanks for how everyone does what you do, and we appreciate it on the product side from the sales side. On the sales side, we've been working with something called force management, and it's about how we understand our customers, what their required positive business outcomes are, what their required capabilities. And you're mentioning some of the things about how you're gathering requirements from customers and stuff. And I think there's maybe a great simile there in the sense that the things that we ask for from our customers to understand what they're trying to do from a sales side might be a great way for us to gather requirements and think about how GitLab gathers that information. What are the positive business outcomes that come out of it? What are the required capabilities? And then Force also talks about creating unique differentiators in the market against our competition. And so, as we kind of take a little step back and think about, what we're going to build, how we're going to build it, and what the customers want and need, have we thought about bringing in ideas around force management to say, this gives us a differentiation that really makes us better and different in the marketplace than others. So I want to get your thoughts on that.
I participated in the force management, the creation of the force management content, as did a number of other folks from product. At the time, I felt like the output of that was consistent with where we were headed, so I didn't see a big disconnect there. That said, it's super important to stay in sync because the things that we believe are important as we move our product line forward should be represented in the force management content so that we're all telling the same story. As we go out and investigate the road forward, I guess I don't have the force management framework in my head as doing that. I view our job as to go talk with customers, figure out what problems we want to solve, and then make sure that maps back to the force management content. I'm not sure if I answered your question, but that's how I think about it.
Yeah,
do you want to dig in on that?
Yeah, I just wanted to, see if there was a conscientious alignment around the things that we're being asked to do from a sales side on force management that can make us a differentiation as a company. If that's built into the thought process of what you're doing. It sounds like there's a lot of alignment there, which is great. I just, sometimes, you subconsciously do it, but do we consciously sit down and say, oh, maybe we ought to map these to how we track things in force management and make sure that we're building the kinds of things that create unique differentiators in the marketplace that helps our salespeople sell more of what we do.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great point. I believe that when we started, it was tightly aligned. I could imagine drift over time. So we need to work hard to make sure that the force management content stays in sync. William.
Yeah, you mentioned a little bit about the validation framework and the one-page documents that are coming out. And that is extremely exciting work to see. One question is that it looks like it's focused a lot around user validation, as it should be, to know that the features we're building work for the problems the users have. My question is because our pricing is based off of the buyer, do you have any thoughts around buyer validation or how that might fit into the framework?
Yeah, that's a great question. If you look at slide 7, there's a pricing function coming soon. I have a rec open for principal pricing manager who will get a pricing function going at the company. And I want that person to have PM-like validation skills. And I could imagine that person going out and interviewing buyers, just like the PMs are interviewing users of the things we are building, to make sure that we have a tight understanding, B, that our pricing model effectively maps back to the buyer universe, and make sure we're on top of that. So that's my initial thought on who should be doing that.
Just to follow up with that, would then the job of placing a feature within a tier belong to the pricing PM, not to the individual functional PM?
I thought a bit about that. I think that the recommender, so to speak, should be the PM. Like, hey, this is the feature. This is where we think it belongs. And we could have the pricing manager double check, because the pricing manager is going to have a really solid mental model of the different tiers and the buyers and where things ought to live. And so I like that idea of the PM's close to the work. They should make the recommendation. Let's make sure the pricing manager agrees that it works. Other questions?
Hey, Scott, you mentioned a live async meeting. Do you mean like instead of having everyone in one giant meeting, having a more limited set of people in a meeting and then live streaming that? Or what did you mean with that?
Oh, I think I said a live sync meeting. I kind of like we had reviews of these vision pages within eGroup. What I imagine is that everyone in R&D associated with a section would be sent the doc well in advance. There would be an optional meeting where they could come and they could have a live Q&A, and then we record it for those that can't make it. That's how I recommended we run those.
Cool, makes sense.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? If not, thank you very much for your time. Have a great rest of your Monday. Bye.